Hello, everyone, and welcome to Love, Light, and Healing with Colette Lopain Capella. I am so excited to have our next guest with us today, and sort of doing it a little different than we've done in the past. We're online and not in person, but it's still so exciting and so wonderful to have my special guest with us today. This TV show is done to connect the mind, body, and soul. Each week and each interview, we have a new guest on who can share about them and what they do, as well as some helpful tips and information that all of us can use. So my guest today, who I love to welcome, and I'm sure you might be able to see her already, is Sama. Oh, I just pronounced it wrong.
Samiyrah.
I told you that was going to happen.
Yeah, like you're looking into a mirror.
Yes. Samiyrah Bennett, LCSW.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this beforehand. I said to her, I butchered someone's name once. So I always ask beforehand, how do I pronounce your name? And of course, I butchered it now. Welcome to today's episode. I want to talk to you, get to know you, and we're just going to have fun today. So first question for you is introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us a little bit about you and how you became a social worker.
Okay, well, I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to connect with you finally, as we always corresponding. I know.
Yes.
And so my name is Samiyrah Bennett. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and psychotherapist working in private practice. I'm also an author of a newly published book called Intentionally Minding the Business of Me, which is a blueprint to live well, navigating 10 strategies of really how to build a mindset to connect with the most favorite version of yourself. I've always wanted to be a helper. I always knew I was going to be in the helping profession. Didn't know that I was going to be a social worker. So I always said I wanted to be a child psychologist. Now I do not work with children at all. So it's just always funny, like, how my experience has led me, because I worked with various amount of different populations, from adolescents to children to geriatric. But I wanted to become a social worker after I studied psychology undergraduate, and I took an intro to social work class senior year. Like, oh, what is this? And I had my internship at the same time at a local hospital. And although I was underneath the supervisor who was a psychologist, we did a lot of assessment, a lot of testing. We did work in an interdisciplinary team. And so I got introduced to the social workers, and I found myself gravitating towards them and going to lunch with them and just having an understanding of what they were doing, really looking at the holistic aspect of the client and not just the testing and the assessment and treating the symptoms, but really understanding, why is this person showing up the way that they are, right? Environmental factors, familial factors, and being able to understand them as a whole person. I'm like, I want to go in this direction. And so that actually led me to more opportunities at a hospital, where I started working as a case manager, and then as a social worker, as a supervisor for emergency room services, intermediate psychiatric care, as well as acute psychiatric care, which led me to go for my master's. And then I decided to be a clinical social worker. So it was just interesting how all these steps happen, but really divine timing and alignment. So in the beginning, I didn't know I was going to be a social worker. I knew I was going to be a helper, but not necessarily a social worker. Now I love it.
You love it. The universe knew. The universe
Yeah.
took you on the path and knew already. I believe your book is in the background. Maybe you can kind of hold it up to show the
Oh,
audience as
sure.
well. Where is it
Yeah.
available?
Yeah. So intentionally minding the business of me, navigating 10 strategies to build a mindset to connect with the most favorite version of yourself. It's available on Amazon. It's also available on my website at www.samiyrahbennettlcsw.org. Maybe we can put that up. I'm not sure. Yes, Samiyrah Bennett, lcsw.org. And it's also available on Amazon as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. So I know you mentioned helper a lot, and I often say helper, or sometimes actually in the introduction for the show, I'll say light worker. Like, we have a new light worker on today. What does it mean to be a helper to you? How do you define it?
So to me, I think that a helper is someone that provides assistance that is genuine, that's filled with compassion, joy, and most importantly, integrity. I think that being a helper really means that you have to be have a sense of integrity in your approach, and it has to come from a good space and a space of compassion, really.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and authenticity. I mean, I feel like we know each other, but we
Yeah.
don't. And I
Hmm.
love like the way I feel like you just show up. You just show up and you're real and you're honest and you're kind and caring and compassionate and I think
Yeah.
that's a helper, right? That's a helper. They show up and they're like, this is me and I'm here.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
Open arms. I
Yeah,
love
yeah, yeah. You use one of my favorite words, authenticity. Like, I think it's so important to show up as your authentic self and really just accepting what that means for you without the validation of others. So, being able to really do that internal work of reflection and curiosity of what does that mean for me to show up as who I am? Who am I, right? Because throughout life, we have so many different experiences where people are projecting who they are onto us, right? And as you enter into adulthood and you're forming and finding yourself, like, I don't want to do that thing anymore. Like, that doesn't sit well with my spirit and who I'm becoming. And so, really giving yourself permission to redefine what that looks like and really being accepting that it gets to look different than what it was and the other people around you. And so, really just showing up in that authentic self is so important to true healing.
I love that. And I
Yeah.
love how, it's always evolving, right? And owning that as well, that we're always changing, we're always growing, we're always evolving. And there's a vulnerable piece within yourself, right? When you show up authentically and you say, like, I'm evolving, I'm growing, I'm changing. We all are
Yeah.
perfectly imperfect.
Exactly.
And there's
Exactly.
beauty in that.
Yep, moment by moment. And, I think about that too, like with the book title of Navigating Strategies to Connect with Your Most Favorite Version of Self. Like, your most favorite version can change season to season. So I
Yes.
can have a favorite version now, but it looks very different than what my favorite version even looked like in January of this year when I was setting like my
Yes.
goals for the year and things like that. It looks very different. So allowing yourself permission to be able to pivot, to kind of course correct and be flexible, not so rigid in the ways of, well, I said I was going to do this, so I have to do that. Your favorite version of whatever you want it to be, it can change, and allow yourself to kind of go with that.
Open,
Yeah.
openness. I feel like
Yeah.
arms open, just receiving and giving. I love
Mhm.
that. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so what do you particularly help your clients with or do?
So a lot of my clients, they come to me with the chief complaint of, I want to get out of my own head. I've been trying to get out of my own head. I'm trapped, right? And so kind of what that translates to is them having experience with rumination, not having the tools to navigate past traumas, really facing challenges that have exacerbated anxiety, stress, depression, panic, and low self-esteem. And so I really help them to gain healthy coping skills to help manage those symptoms that are presenting themselves and being able to create a quality of life that they deserve and that they're desiring. So it's really about building up those skills because a lot of them have unhealthy ways of coping and really just trying to survive. And so the toolboxes that we create and being able to process through what's coming up for them. And I love how you said like that mind, body, and soul, the mission of why we're here today is really having them understand the connection of their mind, body, and soul and the wellness dimensions, understanding that all of it is connected and we need to be able to treat all aspects of you in order for you to show up in the way that you're desiring. So really just helping them get out of their head and get out of their own way and show up in a real authentic way that feels purposeful and allows them to just shine and be the person that they've always wanted to be. So just breaking through barriers is what I really help them with.
I love that. Love that.
Yeah.
So I actually I wanted to ask you a little bit about your book, but I already asked you a little bit. I want to ask you, who is this book for? Like who is this book written for? Like who should
Mhm.
purchase this book?
Yeah. So what's interesting is that the book wasn't even meant to be for everyone else. It was meant for me, right? And
I
the
love
fact that
that.
like
Love
it was birthed out of a dark space and really just being sick and tired of being sick and tired and ready to do something about it. And it started off as like an outline of like things that I wanted to do for myself, how I wanted to show up. And as I started to write it out more and more, I'm like, this is not just for me. Like, there's so many other people that need to hear this about the conversations that I was having. There's so many people that identify with wanting to live well and wanting to live on purpose, but not knowing where to start. And so,
Mhm.
this is for the person that is desiring to get out of their own way, is sick and tired of being sick and tired and ready to do something about it, and really needs a blueprint of where to start. And so, each chapter, it covers ways to take care of yourself, from affirmations and the science behind it, neuroplasticity, building new neural pathways, and what does that look like. And after each chapter, there is kind of like workbook section that helps you reflect on what you just read, and journal prompts to help you say, okay, well, this is what the plan is going to be for here. So you have a starting point. So this affirmations is about safeguarding your well-being, moving out of your own way, getting from behind the mask, right? Of not showing up how everyone else wants you to, but how do you truly want to show up? Really showing up in your authentic self, and then breaking unhealthy patterns. And those are actually some of the book chapters. Um,
Really? That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So there's 10 chapters altogether, but that's who the book is for. People that are ready to do something about getting out of their own way.
When they're
Yeah.
stuck, when they feel stuck.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's awesome.
Thank
And
you.
to be intentional, right? To
Hmm.
set intentions or to be intentional.
Hmm.
How do you define? What does that mean to you?
When I think about intentional, I really think about purposeful, right? Like, it's really showing up in a purposeful way every day, right? Deciding how you want that to be and doing one step. We don't have to do all the things at one time. And I think that's how some people feel stuck, because you start thinking of all these things that you're desiring to do, and it becomes overwhelmed. Our brain is like, overload, abort mission. We
Yeah.
don't do this, and we definitely don't do all of this. So I'm not doing none of this, right?
Mhm.
So being intentional is about being purposeful with each step in the direction of where you want to go. So being intentional may be like, I'm going to be intentional with grooming myself today, right? Even if it's taking a shower, brushing my teeth, deciding to do my hair, right? I'm going to be intentional with hydrating today. I'm going to be intentional with, I know I want to make connections. So on purpose, I'm going to reach out to two people. I'm
Mm,
going to reach out to two people today to build up my community. So just really taking inventory of what your needs are,
mhm.
and purposefully moving in that direction. And if you don't have the tools, being willing to connect with resources that allow you to get those tools so that you can be taking care of yourself on purpose.
Love this. I feel like you're setting small, realistic goals so that it's
Right.
not overload and you like you said, you don't shut down.
Hmm.
They're achievable. Right? And then from there you can build, build, build.
Exactly, exactly. And know that you don't have to do it alone. Like, I started thinking about the author Bell Hooks and what she said about, you don't heal in isolation. Like, we really heal in community as humans. And I think a lot of people feel like no one else is going to be able to identify with what I'm going through. No one understands. I'm the only one that's going through this. And the more that you have conversations and connect with people, you realize just how human you are,
Yep.
and that other people are experiencing the same thing. And so being able to kind of step out and just being able to connect with other people, you'll realize that, what you're experiencing is, I don't want to say normal, but sometimes it is appropriate for what's going on in your life. And
Exactly.
there's ways to get out of it. And here are the tools. And
Yeah.
so being able to connect, I think, is really important.
Yeah. Normalizing that experience when someone doesn't feel like they feel so isolated in that
Yeah.
experience in that moment. Um, and being able to be seen, right, and
Right.
validated by other, like, I see you, I value it, I stand beside you, right? That's saying, I say that often, but someone else is having this experience, like, wow.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. And research shows that a lot of people that are experiencing internal distress is because they don't feel seen, heard, valued, or
Exactly.
validated. And so we thrive off of that. It's a human experience. And it's so important to allow yourself to be human.
To be
Like,
connected. Yeah.
yeah.
I often think of the blue zone, the areas where people live like crazy, crazy, crazy long lives, right? They live
Mhm,
to like
mhm.
101 or like 110. Is it called blue zone? I think it is. But who was it? It was a researcher from Harvard who did this study to figure out like, hey, why do these people live like such long, like healthy lives.
Yes.
What was, I
I don't
forgot.
know the name of it, but I know what study that you're
You
talking
know what I'm
about.
talking about? We all know about it.
Mhm.
And it was like the longest study. I think it was like 80 years or something unbelievable. And people are like, well, it's the diet, right? Or it's the environment, it's the climate, it's this and that. And at the end of this study, what they figured out was the connection that they had to
Mhm.
one another,
Mhm.
that meaningful, purposeful connection that they had to one another, where they felt seen and validated.
Right.
And those were the areas where these people lived super, super. I
Thrived.
think it was like an area, yep, in
Mhm.
Greece. And so what you're saying right now is like, yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
I think we all need a copy of your book. I need one, just saying.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
so I'm going to ask you another. I'm going to go a little bit in a different direction because I like this question, and I'm really kind of big on this. The morning routine. Morning
Mhm.
routine. What is your morning routine like?
So I'm a big believer how you start your day is really, really important. And I don't, even if I'm waking up late, if it just means 5 minutes, I gotta have that time for myself. And so my morning routine involves music. My alarm goes off, my Alexa goes off to gospel music every morning. And that just signifies for me to just really do like a spiritual cleanse, no matter what it is. Being able to pray. I do a body scan from head to toe while I'm laying in my bed and just really taking inventory of what's coming up for me. And light stretching, as well as an intentional grateful exercise that I call it. So what I do is three intentions for the day. What am I going to be intentional about today? And it can be as big or as small as I need them to be, or in between. But I need to know how I'm going to show up for myself in 3 ways. And then reflect on throughout the day what I'm going to be grateful for by the end of the day. So I'm going to be intentional about being grateful. So at the end of the day, when I come back, I know that I am grateful for these 3 things. So 3 things I'm intentional about, 3 things that I'm grateful about. But no matter what, it's time for myself to just take inventory of what do I need today and what do I need to make sure that I'm connected to. So I feel my best. And if not my best, but I feel well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I
Yeah.
love that. I always say every morning, like I have to also kind of connect to myself and into my internal self, my deepest parts of myself, to be able to
Right.
start that day. And so I often do Reiki, like I'll do self Reiki
I love that.
every morning, every single morning. My husband will be like, "We're late. We need you." I'm like, 5 minutes. I
Hmm.
need my Reiki. And I'll do like a physical stretch, and then I'll do my Reiki, kind of like the body scan, and
Hmm.
where it feels a little heavy or uncomfortable, and connect with that. And throughout the day, keep that in mind where it feels.
Yeah, I love that. And that's really being intentional, right? That's really in a purposeful way creating space for yourself to allow yourself to meet you where you are, right? How can I even decide how other people can meet my needs if I can't even
I
know what
did.
my needs are, identify it exactly. So I think
Uh,
that's so important. I love that.
we vibe really well.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to ask you the last question here, and I think it's a really important one, and I'm excited to hear your answer. What's in store for you next?
So what's in store for me is continuing with private practice work. I've actually started some wellness workshops for various organizations. So I'm looking to expand that and really being able to help people take care of themselves on a larger scale because I know that I'm only one person. So working one-to-one is great, but I know that I can meet many, many different people and being able to help transform lives in a really big way. And so the workshops, they're off to a great start. And so I'm definitely going to expand in that area as well. And there may be another piece of literature coming. So we'll see.
This is very exciting, and I look forward to see it all unfold and be a part of watching this all, because you are definitely a light worker, my friend, and a beautiful soul. And so thank you. Thank you. And
Thank
thank you
you.
for
Thank
coming
you.
on today.
Yes, it takes a beautiful soul to see a beautiful soul. So I just appreciate you so much. And I'm so honored to be here. And I greatly appreciate the time.
Thank you so much. And if you can just share, you shared before your website where people can get in touch with you. Can you share it just one more time for the viewers?
Yes, so it's www.samiyrahbennettlcsw.org. Samiyrah is Samiyrah, Bennett, BENNETT, LCSW.org.
Perfect. Thank you so much, my friend. Until next
Yeah,
time, love light to all.
yeah.
Well,
Take good care of yourself. All right.
thank
Bye
you.
bye.